December 7, 1941, 7:48 a.m., Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The sky is clear, Sunday morning. Battleships sit quietly along Battleship Row. Sailors eat breakfast. Some attend church, some sleep in. Few suspect anything. Then the sound comes. Engines. Low, fast, unfamiliar. Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters sweep over the harbor. Moments later, torpedo bombers descend, and the first explosions erupt. The USS Arizona is hit, then the USS Oklahoma, then the USS West Virginia. Black smoke surges upward, sirens wail. Men run across decks as torpedoes slam into hulls. Water floods compartments. Ships begin listing. Within minutes, Pearl Harbor transforms from calm naval base to inferno. The attack was not spontaneous. It was calculated months in advance. Japan faced a strategic crisis in 1941. Its empire depended on imported oil and raw materials. The United States had imposed economic sanctions in response to Japanese expansion into China and French Indochina. An oil embargo in July 1941 threatened to cripple Japan's military within months. Japanese leadership faced a choice: withdraw from China and concede influence, or seize the resources of Southeast Asia, oil fields in the Dutch East Indies, and neutralize American naval power in the Pacific first. Admiral Yamamoto understood something clearly. If Japan attacked, it must strike decisively. Destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet in one blow. Cripple America long enough to secure an Asian empire. He did not believe Japan could win a long war, but he believed it could shock America into negotiation. So a carrier task force sailed across the Pacific in secret. 6 aircraft carriers, over 350 aircraft, maintaining radio silence, approaching Hawaii undetected. At 7:55 a.m., the attack is fully underway. Torpedo bombers skim the water. Armor-piercing bombs drop from high altitude. The USS Arizona is struck near its forward magazine. The explosion is catastrophic. The ship erupts. Over 1,100 sailors die instantly. The USS Oklahoma capsizes after multiple torpedo hits. Men trapped inside pound on hull steel as water rises. On shore, Army Air Corps planes are destroyed wingtip to wingtip, lined up defensively against sabotage, not air attack. They never leave the ground. Anti-aircraft guns begin firing, but initial response is chaotic. Ammunition locked, officers missing, confusion reigns. Within 2 hours, the damage is devastating. 8 battleships damaged or sunk, nearly 2,400 Americans killed, over 1,100 wounded. But something critical did not happen. The American aircraft carriers are not in port. They are at sea. And the Japanese do not destroy oil storage facilities or repair yards. They achieve tactical surprise, but not total strategic destruction. In Washington, news reaches President Franklin D. Roosevelt quickly. Initial reports are confused. Multiple attacks feared. Perhaps the West Coast next. Perhaps the Panama Canal. Within hours, clarity emerges. Japan has launched a coordinated strike. And not only at Pearl Harbor. Simultaneous attacks hit the Philippines, Guam, Wake Island, Malaya, Hong Kong. It is a coordinated offensive across the Pacific. The United States is at war. December 8, 1941, Roosevelt addresses Congress. A date which will live in infamy. The speech lasts just over 7 minutes. Congress declares war on Japan almost unanimously. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. Hitler makes a strategic error. Now America is fully engaged in both theaters, Europe, Pacific. The industrial giant awakens. Pearl Harbor unified American public opinion overnight. Before December 7th, isolationist sentiment remained strong. After the attack, there is no debate. War is accepted. Factories convert rapidly. Automobile plants begin producing tanks. Aircraft production skyrockets. Shipyards operate around the clock. The U.S. mobilizes on a scale unmatched in modern history. By 1944, American industry will produce nearly 100,000 aircraft, tens of thousands of tanks, hundreds of warships. Pearl Harbor did not weaken America long-term. It galvanized it. But the immediate Pacific situation is grim. Within months, Japan captures vast territories. Singapore falls. The Philippines fall. American and Filipino forces endure the Bataan Death March. The Japanese advance seems unstoppable. The gamble appears successful. But Admiral Yamamoto had predicted something haunting. "I fear all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant." The attack achieved surprise. But it did not break American resolve. It hardened it. In the months before December 7th, there were warnings. Not a clear signal, not a specific location, but warnings. American codebreakers had partially broken Japanese diplomatic codes, known as magic intercepts. They revealed rising tension, diplomatic relations deteriorating, war possible. But intelligence was fragmented, scattered across agencies. The Army expected attack in the Philippines. The Navy expected possible moves in Southeast Asia. Few believed Hawaii was the primary target. There were radar contacts on the morning of December 7th. A large formation detected approaching Oahu, but it was misidentified as American B-17s arriving from the mainland. The warning passed quietly, and the Japanese strike achieved tactical surprise. Could it have been prevented? Historians debate this endlessly. Some argue clearer coordination between intelligence branches might have raised alarm. Others argue the scale and secrecy of Japan's carrier task force made detection unlikely. The Pacific is vast. The Japanese fleet traveled thousands of miles undetected. Radio silence, northern route, winter weather masking movement. Even if Hawaii had been on higher alert, the damage likely would still have been severe, because the attack was designed meticulously. Shallow water torpedoes modified specifically for Pearl Harbor's depth, armor-piercing bombs converted from naval shells. Pilots trained intensively. The first wave alone struck with overwhelming precision. But Japan made critical strategic mistakes. They did not destroy the American aircraft carriers. They did not hit the submarine base. They did not destroy oil storage depots, which contained millions of barrels. Those reserves allowed the Pacific Fleet to operate during recovery. Repair facilities remained intact. Within months, damaged battleships like the USS West Virginia and USS California would be refloated and eventually returned to service. Japan also underestimated American industrial capacity. Their plan relied on shock leading to negotiation. Instead, it triggered total mobilization. By 1943, American shipyards were producing aircraft carriers faster than Japan could replace losses. By 1944, the U.S. Navy was the most powerful in history. Pearl Harbor bought Japan time, but not victory. The attack also reshaped American domestic policy. Fear of further sabotage fueled suspicion. In February 1942, Executive Order 9066 authorized the internment of over 110,000 Japanese Americans. Many were citizens, families forced into camps, homes and businesses lost. a decision driven by fear and prejudice. It remains one of the most controversial consequences of the attack. War unifies, but it also distorts. Strategically, Pearl Harbor transformed the global balance of power. Before 1941, the United States was a rising industrial power, but not yet fully committed to global conflict. After December 7th, America became a two-theater war machine. Its entry guaranteed that the Axis powers now faced an enemy with unmatched production capacity. Germany had hoped to avoid war with the United States. Hitler's declaration of war on December 11th ensured the conflict became truly global. The resources of North America now flowed into Europe and the Pacific simultaneously. Pearl Harbor did not just bring America into World War II. It ensured that the war would become total. And yet, from Japan's perspective, the decision was driven by desperation. Oil reserves were dwindling, sanctions tightened, negotiations stalled. Japanese leaders believed delay meant slow strangulation. They chose preemption over submission. But preemption requires decisive follow-through, and Japan lacked the long-term capacity to sustain war against American industry. Yamamoto himself had studied in the United States. He understood American capacity. He reportedly warned that Japan could run wild for 6 months, perhaps a year. After that, he doubted victory. Midway in June 1942 would confirm that doubt. But that story comes later. Pearl Harbor teaches a strategic lesson about shock and resilience. Surprise can deliver devastating tactical advantage, but it cannot replace industrial depth. It cannot replace long-term sustainability. It cannot force negotiation when it creates unity instead. December 7, 1941, was not just an attack. It was a transformation. An isolationist nation became a global superpower. An industrial economy became a war machine. A regional conflict became a world war. 2,403 Americans died that morning, but their deaths marked the beginning of a mobilization that would reshape the 20th century. The Pacific would burn. Europe would shake. And by 1945, the United States would emerge not just victorious, but dominant. If you want to understand how one morning changed global power forever, and how shock can awaken forces beyond calculation, stay with this channel. Because sometimes history doesn't slowly turn. Sometimes it detonates.